Iran's massive attack on Israel the night between the 13th and the 14th of April had huge consequences for the strategic picture in the entire world. And I'm not talking about the Middle East now, I'm talking about between the United States and Russia and between the United States and China. That's what we're going to elaborate about today. My name is Max Villman, I'm a former fighter pilot in the Swedish Air Force, and as always, let's go. Yeah, it was the night between the 13th and the 14th April that Iran launched a massive attack on Israel. With more than 110 ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and also Shahed suicide drones at Israel. And this came after Israel first striked the Iranian consulate in Syria, in Damascus, and killed 2 generals and 5 other officers, according to Iran. And this was a retaliation attack against for that attack. It was not a big surprise when it came to that this was going to happen. Before this attack on the Saturday the 13th of April, the Jordanian airspace closed, so Jordan decided to close its entire airspace to allow Israel access to it, because everyone knew that this attack was coming between the 13th and the 14th of April. So Iran did not manage to create any sort of surprise here. It was pretty obvious for Israel, for Jordania, and for the United States, of course, that this attack was coming. And there are reports about other ways that Jordan and even Saudi Arabia helped defend against this attack, but I haven't been able to confirm that. We know that Israel helped, and we know that the United States helped. And we start off by looking at some pictures. These are interception done by Israeli fighters against cruise missiles and against Shahed drones. So not against ballistic missiles. We will look at that just in a bit. You see fighter jets using IR pods, targeting pods, to track. This looks like a Shahed drone. And then fire missiles against it, and you see it's a big splash. And I got one question on Twitter why they don't use their gun here. And this is because it's nighttime, and these cruise missiles and drones are flying quite low, which makes it more difficult to deconflict. And also, as you see, when you have impact, you get a lot of debris, which you might fly into. You had a Ukrainian pilot that intercepted one of these drones and flew into the debris and had to eject, and the fighter jet, I think it was either a MiG-29 or a Sukhoi 27, was lost. So it's a real danger when you use the gun, because you're so close to the target you're shooting at. So they prefer to use missiles. And if you take a look at the map here, we have Iran here over here, and we have Israel here. A lot of the cruise missiles and the drones, they flew obviously over the desert here, either via Syria or via Jordania, and Israel used its fighter jets to intercept those things. But when it comes to ballistic missiles, you don't get to shoot them down with fighter jets, not yet at least. But this is a short video that was published on Twitter, which is supposedly describing the first visual confirmation of an exo-atmospheric, not atmospheric, but exo-atmospheric, so outside of the atmosphere. An intercept done by Israeli air defense systems of a ballistic missile outside of the atmosphere, so in space. So this is kind of cool, and this is what I think will change the dynamics when it comes to Russia and China versus the USA, when it comes to nuclear arms and when it comes to nuclear deterrence, because the West has now shown that it is able to shoot down ballistic missiles, and ballistic missiles is one of the main delivery vehicles when it comes to nuclear strategic nuclear weapons. But before I go any further, please consider sharing this video with someone you think benefits from this message, because that's what helps us grow this channel. And please also give me a like on the video. You might leave a comment below what you think, if you agree, if you don't agree. And also, please subscribe to the channel. That really helps. So thanks a lot. But now back to the video. And here are some other pictures from the night. You can go look at this in Twitter. Obviously, rockets also fired from Hezbollah and from Hamas towards Israel in conjunction with this, and Iron Dome was active as always. Here are more pictures about that. You have Israeli jets here being scrambled to intercept cruise missiles and Shahed drones. And then after this attack, Israel shot probably a radar station in Iran and perhaps something more in Iraq. It's a bit unclear, but I think this situation is going to calm down a little now after this. But what's important with this is that this is the Arrow 3. Germany also bought it, so it's the Western system, even though it's considered Israeli. It's a Western system. It's a technology that Israel has, and obviously the West has. And if you take a look at the big global map here, when it comes to nuclear deterrence, Russia has a couple of ways to assure mutual deterrence. And why they need that is because if someone surprise attacks them with nuclear weapons, they want to be sure that they can always strike back. So it will always be a big threshold for someone to strike at Russia or the United States or China for that matter. Everyone uses the same approach. So you want multiple ways of attacking. So you have missile silos, permanent silos, where you have nuclear weapons. Those obviously are known to the enemy, which then they can be targeted. So you need detection when someone launches ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles. You also have the mobile part of the missile forces that have basically ballistic missiles loaded on trucks. You have the Air Force, which can fire mainly cruise missiles, atomic cruise missiles. But cruise missiles can be, I won't say easily, but they can be intercepted by either fighter jets or by ground-based air defenses, which you saw in the YouTube video just a couple of minutes ago. And then also you have submarines with intercontinental ballistic missiles, and these submarines can be wherever. So you don't know where they are, and they can always fire back. And if you look at Cuba, for example, why the Cuba crisis occurred in the 60s was because the Soviet Union was trying to place ballistic missiles on Cuba, and then the flying time to the continental United States would be so short that this was unacceptable for the United States. And if you take a look once again at Iran and Israel, we see that it's a similar kind of distance here as between Cuba and the United States. So Israel now manages to handle that threat. I heard one source say it was 12 minutes flight time for these basic missiles, so it's not a very long time to get your own Arrow 3 missile up into outer space. Detect first the launch and then decide to intercept and send your ground-based air defenses into space within 12 minutes is obviously very, very fast. So this could potentially nullify the opportunity for Russia to strike back, because Russia does not have all these advanced anti-ballistic missile systems as the US and the West does now. So this could mean that Russia's nuclear deterrence is not effective anymore, and the same can be said for China. And this has strategic effects long past just the Middle Eastern region. Of course, the Middle Eastern region has the opportunity to escalate and create problems and other issues down the line, of course, for the entire world. But when it comes to the big power conflicts between Russia and the United States and between China and the United States, this is perhaps even more important. So now the West has proven that it can shoot down ballistic missiles, and obviously these were not nuclear missiles this time, but even if it's a nuclear missile and you intercept it, it's not going to be a problem for you. So the US has ways. This was Arrow 3 that was used, but there are other things. Exo-atmospheric kill vehicle is one. And we'll take a look at just a short video from Raytheon. This is from 2019, and there's two videos. And this is how Raytheon describes how they shoot down intercontinental ballistic missiles. So there are several ways now that the West has this sort of Star Wars defense system. And this will force Russia and China into a new arms race, because they need to make sure that they can provide nuclear deterrence. And if they don't have a way of striking back, so to speak, at the United States with their nuclear missiles with a high probability of hitting their targets, then that is a big problem for China and for Russia right now. So the US, or the West, the US has demonstrated the ability to shoot down ballistic missiles, which in turn nullifies the nuclear deterrence that China has and that Russia has. Here's the interceptor, a silo opening, and then shot. So these are the interceptors. And basically what we're talking about now is basically just like firing a satellite into space orbit. It's basically the same thing. You use booster stages to get something into space, and that something then either is a satellite, or in this case it intercepts intercontinental ballistic missiles. And the dummy target here is probably an old Minuteman ICBM, rebuilt. Obviously, no nuclear charge on board anymore. But it's also basically a massive space rocket. Right? It goes in a big, it goes very, very high up, and it comes down with very, very high speed and very, very high angle of impact, which makes it very, very difficult for normal GBAD systems, ground-based air defense systems, to shoot them down, because they either need to be very, very close to have a chance to fire and intercept. Patriot can do this, and we've seen Patriot intercepting Kinzhal, which is a hypersonic ballistic missile. But that Kinzhal was fired at the Patriot battery, so the Patriot battery was close to where it was trying to get hit. And here we see this exo-atmospheric interceptor killing the dummy ICBM. And if you take a look at an even newer picture here, also from Raytheon, it's a bit better. Of course, the US has great names for everything: Freedom's Shield, Homeland Defense. And here you have the interceptor, and as you see, when they split it apart, it's 3 stages, and instead of delivering a satellite to orbit, it's delivering this kill vehicle, exo-atmospheric kill vehicle, which is basically a missile in itself. So you have booster that separates, and then another stage which drives it forward, and then the last kill stage that can maneuver and hit the ICBM. So it's basically just like a normal space rocket. So you see that space is becoming more and more important, and this can probably be used to shoot down satellites too, of course. This is the target drone, so to speak. And it's also just like a spaceship, right? But with a lot of death and destruction on board. And as you can see, this is a big testing thing. You shoot from Hawaii towards the mainland of USA, and then they show how they synchronize everything, how it's detected with radars and everything. And also you have other space sensors to detect these kinds of things, of course, like satellites, etc. So it's not very, very small, as you can see. There is a special radar that can track. It's an AESA radar. And this, because of the high flight altitude of these missiles, the ICBMs, they can be detected quite early. But you also use space-based sensors to detect them, of course. And now you have the command and control node here, and then they decide to fire their interceptor missiles, of course. So as you can see, this is a very technique intense way, and of course very, very expensive. I think an Israeli general said they fired ground-based air defense missiles in an excess of $1 billion on the night between 13 and 14 of April. So it's expensive. There you see the booster and the stages separating, and now you only have the kill vehicle left. Now it has separated. So it's a very small part that actually does the intercept. And they get tracked, and they will also see the intercept just in a short while. There is the intercept with a cool explosion, of course. Yeah, so I will end it there. This is just to show you that even though this was a Middle Eastern issue, it has worldwide strategic complications, and it will force probably China and Russia, we have seen this already, into a new arms race where they will need to develop new systems of delivering their nuclear bombs. And we have seen this already with hypersonic glide vehicles. Hypersonic glide vehicles are basically a way of nullifying these interceptors. So you have an ICBM and you launch it, and then you have this hypersonic glide vehicle separating from the ICBM using the energy it has, and then gliding in a lower orbit, so in the atmosphere with very, very high speed, and it can even do evasive actions. And then you have a much shorter warning time, and you have a maneuvering at the end, which makes it difficult just because of the high speed. Even a few degrees maneuvering is very, very difficult to hit with normal ground-based air defenses. So I think this will force us into a more of an arms race. Of course, the capabilities were known before, but now Israel has demonstrated in November when they shoot down a Houthi missile, and now in April of 2024 that the West has the capability to defend itself even against large-scale ballistic missile attacks. Over 110 ballistic missiles were fired from Iran within a flight time of 12 minutes. So very, very interesting times, to say the least. So we'll need to keep that, keep a lookout for that for sure. But I will end it here. Thank you so much for staying to the end. Please give me a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new here as well. And if you agree or don't agree, write in the comments below what you think. Does this fit with your own description of what you think has seen, or do you think something else is is going on here? But we will stop there, and thank you so much for listening again, and until next time, as always, fly safe.